Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to be rebrewing a recipe that I've done before. I'm going to be redoing my Munich Helles that actually won me my first best of show, which I have right here. So you can see, nice little medal. Pretty proud of it. Best of show isn't exactly the easiest thing to win, but yeah. So we're going to rebrew this. There's a big competition coming up, the National Homebrew competition. That's in March. So I want to get this beer into it. If you guys have never entered a homebrew competition before, I highly suggest it. Even if you don't want to win awards or medals, which who doesn't, it's a great way to get some feedback on your beer. So I would definitely suggest finding some local ones that you have. You can go to the AHA website, or you can go on bjcp.org and find it. It's pretty cool. Like I said, almost every area has them. If not, you can ship, but just be careful with that. So yeah, if you've never entered a competition, I highly suggest it. So let me show you what we're going to be working with today. It's a pretty simple recipe. Okay, so here's the recipe we're going to be working with. It's 9 pounds, 4 ounces of Pilsner malt, 8 ounces of Munich malt, 4 ounces of Melanoidin, and then a little bit of Hallertau. I'm using German lager yeast that I have on as a starter. Just remember, anytime you do a lager, you always want to double your starter. Apps like Mr. Malty are great for this. It gives you a good way to calculate how much starter you need. Let me just show you down here. So when I did this beer originally, I'll pull up the original recipe. Just gotta find it. So the original recipe kept the grain the same. My alphas were a little higher on the hops I used then, but if you can see down here, just a little tiny bit higher on the IBUs. The only thing that the judges had to say about it was that it was a little on the bitter side, and they were being really nitpicky with that. I did score a 46 out of 50, which is one of the highest scores you're going to see for a homebrew competition. So what I chose to do this time is I'm just a little lower at 17, but everything else is exactly the same. So we're going to see how this one goes. As for water additions, let me show you what that'll look like. So as for water additions, you can see here, I'm using the Munich boiled profile on my brewing water. Pretty low in everything in Munich, Germany. So if you could see, I'm actually pretty high in the chloride. There's two things I could do with that. I'm just going to let it go because it doesn't really have too much effect at that level. But you could always boil off some of it or throw a Camden tablet in. And I'll show you. So what I'm basically going to be doing is, since I can't really add too much salt, I'm going to be adding in the lactic acid. So I'm going to be putting 1.7 milliliters into my 2.75 mash. The reason that mash water is so low is because for this beer, I'm using a protein rest. So this is what I did on the original beer that I actually placed in one best of show. Basically what the protein rest does is you're gonna let it rest for about a half hour at this low temp, 122. And what that does is it kind of gets all that protein nice and broken down. It gets the enzymes going, and it just really helps with a lot of the head retention and body of the beer without having to throw other things in. So with these light beers, you're not going to get too much body. You may sacrifice head retention with the Pilsner malt, so this helps with that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it back up to saccharification rest for 15 minutes at 146. That's where most of the enzymatic activity is going to break down the starches. And then we're going to do a little bit of saccharification rest number 2, which is at 156. That's just going to be there to help kind of get the body up a little bit and help with that. So the reason you see those water profiles being so low is because the protein rest is actually done best with a very thick mash. So you're seeing here 0.9 quart to pound ratio. We're normally looking at about a 0.5. So we're going to do our protein rest at a very low number. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to add water and not just bring it up to temperature. So when we add the water, we'll be at 1.35. So we'll add 2.5 quarts to that, and that'll really thin out the mash. And then after that, we'll just heat this at a normal heat with our recirculation. So that's what we're going to do for this. Again, this is a very good recipe. It came out, it was amazing. It did not last long on my kegerator at all. So let's get on to the water additions and brew day. Okay, so I added my 1.7 milliliters of lactic acid. I just mashed in. You can see, let me just show you this. I'm going to show you how thick this is. I mean, that's pretty thick. There's not a lot of liquid to it. This is a lot thinner than you'll ever see in a normal mash. So we'll keep it here at about 122 for a half hour. Get those proteins really going. You can see how white and thick it is? It looks almost like a cereal. That's what you want to see when you do your protein rest. So we'll hold this at 122 for about a half hour. Okay, so we're done the protein rest. Now we're going to add 2.5 quarts of hot water to it. There's one. Two. And let's get a half. And there's our half. So what I did there is, in hopes to get this up to our sack temp, let me just stir this up a little bit. That water I had in there was about 156 degrees. I poured that on top of the 122. So this should be up around 140 now. So let's check it. You can see the mash is already a lot thinner. This is about where you would normally see your mash temp. So our temp, got some hot spots. So the temp didn't rise like it should have. Only coming in at about 135. So what I'm going to do is get the recirculation going and get this temp up to 146. So let me get that started now. Okay, so we just got done our saccharification rest, part 1, the 146. Just started recirculating to get it up to 156. You can see it's running much thicker and that creaminess has started to go already. So the protein started to break down and all the sugars are pretty much heating up at this point. So we're going to bring it up to 156 for 15 minutes and then we're going to start to spar. Alright, so we just finished our second saccharification rest. You can see it's looking pretty clear already. So we're going to load her out, sparge. Going to collect a little over 7 gallons. You can see right there, clarity is fantastic. One thing I love about the recirculation. So we'll collect this. We're going to do a 90-minute boil since it is Pilsner malt. Make sure that all the DMS boils off. And we'll have a 60-minute, a 15-minute, I believe a 5-minute hop addition. Alright, so I'll collect and get the boil started. Alright guys, so brew day's done. Everything went pretty well. It was actually one of the better brew days I've had in the last couple batches. Everything came out a little higher than expected actually, which is good. Let me show you the numbers I got. Alright, so you can see here, don't worry about the pH, I don't really log that, but you can see post mash right on the money, 79.5% mash efficiency. Pre-boil I collected a little too much, not a problem though. Pre-boil gravity 1040. Batch size I only boiled off down to 5.4, which again not that big of a deal, especially looking at that I collected more here. And then my measure original gravity was 1057, so a little higher than expected, but nothing too large of a difference. These numbers aren't in yet, but these are from the last brew session. So total right now we're looking at a 72% brew house efficiency if I get down to here. So we'll see how that goes. Let's look at the notes I had from previous. So these down here, obviously this doesn't apply. This is from my last batch. So I just want to show you guys the fermentation notes. So at the bottom there you can see fermentation notes. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm going to ferment at 58 degrees for about 2 weeks, and then I'm going to do a diacetyl rest, bring it up to 65 degrees, do that for about 5 days, and then I'm going to transfer and lager. So I'll show you guys all that. A couple things, again, you want to remember to do with lagers. I didn't show it, but oxygenate your wort. Do more oxygen than you would normally on a regular ale. That's big because the lager yeast needs as much help as it can get. Again, make sure you always pitch double what you would an ale. Mr. Malty, it's a website and an app. That's what I use. You can also use Beersmith, but I like the Mr. Malty better, so you can use that. And just the biggest thing, make sure you use some kind of fining agent as well. Lagers need to be clear, so make sure you use that. So all in all, that's pretty much the brew day for lagers. It's actually one of the simpler brew days. I'll post some updates on this video for the fermentation, just so I can show you guys when I increase the temperature, when I decrease the temperature, and then we'll do a taste test. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, so we are about 30 hours after pitching. You can see we got some good activity. Lager yeast doesn't really bubble as quick as ale yeast does, just a little slower. You can see the Kreuzen's just a little bit more, like almost like a sudsy rather than a creamy thickness like a normal ale yeast. But it's going pretty good. A little bit of sulfur coming off, which isn't bad. That's your normal lager smell. But it was a healthy pitch because it's really not too bad. If it really reeks of just eggs and sulfur, you most likely didn't pitch enough. So this yeast doesn't seem too stressed out. Right now we're coming in right at about 58 degrees fermentation. So we'll let this go for another week. See how it goes. Alright guys, so today we're on day 8 of our Munich house. You can see the Kreuzen is pretty much completely fallen. Try to get you guys a little closer. So not much left in there. I know it's a little hard to see, but pretty much all gone. Smells pretty pleasant. Now again, lager yeast is bottom fermenting, so Kreuzen doesn't really tell too much, but it'll at least tell you some activity. So what we're going to do today is we're going to raise up to our Diacetyl Rest. I'm going to take this to 68 degrees. Show you this. So this is in Celsius. Just going to hold that in. So 14, I have it set at 14.4, it's 58. Alright, I'm going to have to do this without the phone because I have to hold both buttons. So let me finish that. Alright, sorry about that. So now we have this set. I have that set right at 18.3 degrees Celsius, which is about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we'll do now is our Diacetyl Rest. We're going to have it rest here at 68 degrees or 65 degrees for about 5 days. So today's day 8, I'll take that all the way up to day 13. So this Saturday I will then bring it down and I'll start my cold crash. Alright. Okay, so we are about 14 days in. You can see a little bit, I know it's a little sweaty in there, but pretty much all the Kreuzen fell after we did our Diacetyl Rest. It smells pretty good in there, no sulfur smells, which is nice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start doing our lager crash. So let me show you how I do that. So basically, what I do is I have my box here. Again, this is Celsius. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop this a couple degrees every 12 hours. So if you're working in Celsius, I like to drop it about 5 degrees Celsius. You don't want to do it all at once. So I'll put this down to about 13. So if you do this too quick, what will happen is you're going to shock the yeast and you're going to lose the purpose of the lagering. So again, what we're doing here is we're just trying to condition. That's the whole point of lagering. So what I'll do is every 12 hours, I'm going to lower that 5 degrees Celsius. So right now, as you just saw, I'm down to 13.5. pull that back up. So again, we're at 13.5 now, or 13 now. What I'll do is in 12 hours, so tomorrow morning, I will lower that again down to 8. And then tomorrow night I will lower it down to 3. And then we will hold that right around freezing, so we're right about 1 or 0, for about 3 or 4 weeks. Now, one thing you want to remember is that when you do lagering, you want to do a week for every 10 gravity points. So this beer came out to 105.1, so technically it needs 5 weeks, but due to the competition, I need to drop off in 3 weeks, I believe it is, which is cutting it close. We're going to do it short, but luckily in Munich, Helles is supposed to be drank pretty young, so we'll be alright. So that's basically how you do it. So what I'll do is I'll drop it again 12 hours, then again 12 hours again, and just keep doing that until it gets down to temp. So I'll show you guys that, and then we're done. So that's it. Okay guys, so we are ready to start the lagering process. This beer has been at freezing temperature for a couple days now. I did that before I took it off the yeast. You can see we have a nice little layer of yeast. It's about 1 inch thick, just to try to get this off the yeast as much as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to be lagering in this keg right here. I just purged it with CO2. You can hear it. Good. The advantage to lagering inside of a keg: for one, you can purge with CO2 to avoid any oxidation, which is a big no-no with lagers. You can also, you don't have to worry about transferring again. So I'm going to use this so that way I can even carbonate while it's lagering. So this really just helps a lot. Basically, the lagering process is similar to having your beer in a fridge. So you could even keg your lagers if you have enough freezer or fridge space or keezer space, and just leave them in there and carbonate them. So let me get this set up for transfer, and we'll show you how that works. You can see anytime you purge a keg, some cloudiness in there. You can see the CO2. That's a good thing. That's what you want. And all that's basically doing is just making sure none of that, trying to get as much oxygen out of here as possible. It's obviously not going to be a perfect setup, but it'll get the job done. So we want to get this tube as slow into the keg as we can. Right now it's not cooperating. There we go, it's a little better. And then we're just going to siphon. Right now there's a lot of yeast in there. Let's try to get this yeast free. There we go, you can see color, pretty good, pretty clear. That first little bit was definitely a lot of yeast because I had this resting on the bottom. Try to get this lower. You want to try to get as much of this beer as you can without the yeast. Lagers benefit from not being on any of the yeast, because during the lagering phase you'll definitely get some off flavors if you leave it on the yeast too long. So this is only going to lager for a couple weeks. I'm not going to have the full time due to the competition being so close. The beers need to be dropped off in 2.5 weeks. So total time, we've already been in primary for a little over 2 weeks. I've had it cold for about 4 or 5 days now. So we've already technically been lagering for close to a week. Won't affect it too much with this specific beer. Again, Munich Helles aren't really the most picky with lagering for too long. And there's some articles out there you'll read that at the homebrew level you really don't need to do the full week per 10 gravity points. So we'll see how this comes out. Again, this was an award-winning beer. I won Best at Show at a different competition, so we'll see if this is any better. Alright, so I'll seal this up and I'll show you where I put my probe. Alright, so we're filled. I already purged the headspace. You can see what I'm doing is I'm taping my probe to the side, and then I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to basically put this on here and put a piece of tape around it. What you're trying to do here is you don't want to let any of the ambient air affect the probe. The probe needs to read just the keg and not ambient air, or else what's going to happen is if it's reading ambient air, your freezer's going to kick on and off too much, and you're either going to burn out your freezer or just end up wasting a lot of electricity. There's a couple methods to this. If you don't like this method, you can go to a carboy and use a thermowell like I do for primary fermentation. Another thing you can do is actually stick this into a bottle of water. Me personally, I like measuring what we're trying to cool. I don't want to measure the ambient air. I don't want to measure a smaller bottle of water. I want to measure the beer inside here as best I can. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that tail over it, tape that down, and then we're going to let it go. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we have the tail taped. You can see probe's under there. Let's see what it's reading right now. It's still pretty cold in that keg. It's reading 10.5 degrees Celsius. So it's dropping. There's going to be a little bit of heat warmth from the tail, but once I put that in there, that should stabilize out around freezing where I want it. So you can see it's still dropping because it's just now reading the keg. So it's working out. So let me drop it in. Okay, so we have it back into the freezer. Freezer's on right now to try to cool this back down. Again, I transferred this as close to freezing as I could. This is very similar to what you would do is if you had a keezer and you tried to measure the temperature of the beer, you would do this as well, or you could do again that water trick. So this is basically what we'll do. It's going to sit for a couple weeks. I may end up putting a CO2 tank on here to get it carbonating. I won't do that now, just for the sake of time. But eventually I will probably carbonate this, and we can lager while carbonating. Alright, check in a couple weeks. Okay guys, so we are about 2 weeks in the lagering. I just put it into the kegerator to get carbonated. But we're coming up. I'll show you a sample of the beer first. So this is what the beer's looking like. You can see for a lager it's still a little hazy. It's see-through, but there's definitely still some in there. This could probably use another week or two. But again, since this is for the competition, the national competition that has to be submitted next Wednesday, and today is Saturday, we need to get it going. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little cheat sheet. We're going to use gelatin. The first time I did this, I did not use gelatin. I actually let it fully lager, but it's alright because it'll still taste the same. So this is what I'm using. L.D. Carlson's gelatin findings. You can see half a teaspoon for 5 gallons of beer. I have done this before. It does work pretty well. I just don't normally like doing it. You can see right now I have this in cold water. Can't really see too much that it's in there, but you can see it's hazy. So what you want to do is let this set in cold water for about an hour, just like it says in the bottle. And then we're going to bring it up to heat. And I'm not going to add boiling water. I'm going to show you how to do it with a microwave. So we're going to let this set, and then I'll show you what to do. Okay guys, so we've been letting this sit to bloom. Again, you can't really tell, but you can see it's a little less cloudier. From my perspective, all the little fine grains that it looked like are gone, and it's pretty much mixed into the water. So that's what you want to see. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put this in the microwave. And I've done this before, so I know it takes about 45 seconds worth. You want to heat this to around 150 degrees. The reason you want to go higher is because you don't want to make jello. You just want to make the gelatin react with the beer when you put it in. So you want to do this in bursts. Some people say less than 40 seconds. Mine takes usually around 40 seconds. So I'll show you what it's going to look like, and you want to stir every time you pull it out. So I'm going to start with the measuring thermometer. So you'll see it's going to get clearer and clearer. It's going to start looking like water. So we're at 105. So we're going to keep doing this. Let's put it back in. And as you get closer and closer, you don't want... Well, let me go a little more than that. Let's go 15. So you'll see it's going to be in small little bursts. The closer you get, the shorter time you want to do. You really don't want this to get up around 170, because then you're going to turn your beer into jello, and you do not want that. So you're just going to keep doing this, stirring it. You can see it's getting clearer and clearer, almost like water. So let's measure temp, stir this up. I'm looking at 128, so we're going to go a little hotter. So you'll see how it gets smaller and smaller with each consecutive heat. We just want to get this to right around 150, 155. It's going to activate the gelatin, and it will react to anything in the solution. So let's check this out again. You can see, getting clearer and clearer as we go. Stir it up. Measure. 138, 137. Should be able to get 10, should really do it. So I believe we're at a total of 40 or 50 seconds now. Now this isn't the same for everybody, so don't assume just because it took me 50 seconds that's how long it's going to take you. I would definitely continue to do this in spurts. You really don't want to overheat this gelatin. Alright, we probably need like another, oh, it's close. I'm going to put it in for about 4 more seconds. 148. I'll put it in for a couple more seconds and then we'll go. 4 seconds, and it should be good. So we should be coming in right around 150. Let's check it out. Well, it's actually not enough. Kind of shocked at that. So obviously you're going to lose a little bit of heat each time you pull it in and out. So I'm going to put it in again. Obviously if you can get this all in one, it'll heat a lot quicker, but this is basically the method you want to do. This should have done it. Should be right at about 150 now. Alright, we'll say that's close enough. 148. I really don't want to overdo this, so let me get the keg ready and then I'll show you what to do. Okay, so we have the keg. Let's purge that. So again, I use the carbonation stone. So what we're going to do, here, just going to pour this right in. You want to make sure that beer is ice cold as you can get it. I'll put my carbonation stone back in. Should get this a little bit set right with the camera, sorry. It's hard to seal this with the camera, man. Alright, all nice and sealed. We're just going to purge the headspace. Sorry about that. Get that headspace nice and purged, and then I'm going to shake this up, get that gelatin all around. Alright, so let me just purge this, I'll shake it up. Okay, so the headspace is purged. Just shake this up a little bit. And we're just going to let it sit. So, gelatin works pretty quick. This bad boy should be nice and ready in about 48 hours. And I'll pour a sample and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. That's pretty much it. That's all it is to gelatin. Okay guys, so here is the finished product. You can see that is amazing clarity. Nice head retention. You can pretty much read right through it. Can't get much clearer than that. Now this beer normally does this without the gelatin, but again, since I had such little time to prepare this for the competition, that's awesome right there. Since I had such little time for the competition, I had to use some gelatin, but taste and smell wise, right on par with what it was when I won my award with this. This is just an absolutely delicious beer. Great recipe. This will be my house lager eventually. Smell, it's just very grainy. A little bit of residual sweetness. Some tiny esters from the yeast. Not too much. That'll actually settle out a little bit over time. Some light hops. But I mean, all in all, this is what you want from a Helles right here. So, give it a try. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully be posting a couple videos in the upcoming months. I know it's been a while, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to have our first New England IPA coming up, so I know a lot of you guys are going to be interested in that one, so be on the lookout. Alright, cheers.